نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم ثم حبب إليه الخلاء وكان يخلو بغار حراء فيتحنث فيه وهو التعبد الليالي ذوات العدد قبل أن ينزع إلى أهله ويتزود لذلك ثم يرجع إلى خديجة فيتزود لمثلها حتى جاءه الحق وهو في غار حراء. My respected young brothers, my elders, Alhamdulillah, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have gathered here in the masjid, a place which is very beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this planet. A masjid or the masajids are known as the gardens of paradise. How fortunate are those who are given the tawfiq and ability regularly, who come to masjid and they pray and they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My respected listeners, my elders, my young brothers, at this very moment we are sitting in the circle of hadith Bukhari. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our sitting here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it means of our forgiveness. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it means of coming close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and close to our beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The third hadith from the chapter, the beginning of the revelation, is undergoing and is the hadith which is being explained to you. As I mentioned, it is a very lengthy hadith and narrated by al-Mu'mineen Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. And what she relates in this hadith was something that happened well before her birth. She wasn't even born then. And last week I mentioned this, but I didn't answer how was she to relate something that happened before her birth. The ulama kiram, the muhaddithin, they say there is no doubt that the Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, what she is mentioning in this hadith, it happened before her birth, but there's a possibility she may have heard it from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or from a sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, what she mentioned, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, prior to his nabuwwat, he used to see dreams. And 6 months before he became prophet, he used to see dreams which came true. Whatever he would see at night, next day it would happen. Then she mentioned, ثُمَّ حُبِّبَ إِلَيْهِ الْخَلَاءُ. Before our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam became Nabi, Prophet, Messenger of Allah, before he received the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the love of seclusion was bestowed upon him. He would go into seclusion for a month. Seclusion, in a hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in one hadith he says, "Al-wahdatu khayrun min jalis as-su." Seclusion is better than an evil friend. When a person is in seclusion, it gives him a time to think. And in seclusion, a person, he refrains from many sins. You know, when a person is in a public, when a person is in a crowd, when a person is with his friends, you know, there are many chances that, you know, he could commit sins like backbiting, telling a lie, slandering someone. But when a person is in seclusion, sitting alone, his tongue will remain safe from the sins. because he's not talking to anyone, he's alone there. And also when a person is sitting in seclusion, his eyes will remain safe and he will not be gazing at a woman. So our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon him the love of seclusion. And there's a hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you've heard it from the ulama ikram many a times, the seclusion, seclusion, through seclusion a person can come very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we should spare a time in 24 hours, that we should go into seclusion, meaning at home, we should sit alone and think, of our, we should ponder over our own selves. Why Allah created me? Am I obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? Or am I disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This will give us a time to think and ponder over our own selves. And the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, 7 type of people will be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. One of them was رَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَالِيًا فَفَاضَتْ عَيْنَاهُ, a man who remembered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in seclusion. He was sitting alone, he was in seclusion and he remembered Allah, he did zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the zikr and the asr of the zikr was فَفَاضَتْ عَيْنَاهُ, his eyes began to shed tears. So this person who sat in seclusion to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the day of judgment Allah will honor him by giving him a place under his shade, under the shade of his arsh. So our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he bestowed upon him the love of seclusion. And where did he used to go in seclusion? He used to go in seclusion in the cave Hira. Now, this cave Hira nowadays is known as Jabal-e-Nur. And he used to go there, and he used to go in the month of Ramadan. And for full 1 month, he used to go there, and he would take his food with him. And now the ulama, they question, why did he used to go to Ghar Hira? Why did he select the Mount Hira for seclusion? There were other mountains there as well. In mountains there are caves. So why did he particularly he chose Ghar Hira, the cave Hira, for this purpose? Some say that his grandfather Abdul Muttalib used to go there for seclusion. But some say no, because from there he could see Kaabatullah. And at once he would be doing 3 ibadats. He would be doing, while he was in Hira, in the cave, he was doing 3 ibadats at a time. First ibadat, seclusion. Now you might say, seclusion itself, is it ibadat? Is it a worship? As I just mentioned, when a person is in seclusion, he gets a time to refrain from the sins. And there's a hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today, it is well known by people to do the recitation of Quran is ibadat, to do Hajj is ibadat, to give zakat is ibadat, to offer daily 5 prayers ibadat, offering the nafi ibadat is all ibadat. This is our this is our mind. But remember, staying away from sins is also ibadat. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the hadith, he says, "Ittaqil maharim takun abadan nas." He says to Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, "O Abu Hurairah, you refrain from the sins. Ittaqil maharim," and from unlawful activities. Anything that is unlawful for you, Allah made it unlawful for you, stay away from it. Takun abadan nas, you will be considered, you will be regarded in the sight of Allah the great worshipper. So seclusion itself is ibadat. So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to be in a seclusion, and seclusion is ibadat. And he used to be doing ibadat there. Now the question is, before the Nabuwwat, what type of ibadat he used to do? This is also a question. What type of ibadat our Prophet ﷺ used to do while he used to be in the cave Hira? The ulama, they say they have different opinions. They say he used to do the ibadat, what has came to him from Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ. And some say no, meditation. He used to meditate, meditation, pondering, on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pondering over himself. This was ibadat. And the third was looking at the Kaaba. There are 3 things. If we look at them, we receive ibadat, swab of the ibadat. One is Kaabatullah. There's a hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sends 120 rahmats upon the Ka'batullah every day. 60 are for those who are doing tawaf. And 40 are those who are standing there and in Masjid al-Haram offering the prayers. They are in namaz. And 20 are only for those who are just sitting and looking at the Kaaba, or standing looking at the Kaaba. Just to look at the Kaaba is also, remember, by just looking at the Quran is also considered ibadat. By just looking at the Quran, reading something else, just by looking at the Quran is ibadat. By looking at the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is considered ibadat. Of reciting the Quran. In the morning, our morning should begin with the recitation of the Quran. And then you will see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless you, with the ni'mas. Today we have forgotten the Quran. The Quran are the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we're reading the Quran, you just always think that when you're reading the Quran, you are talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are being honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the recitation of the Quran. And there's another thing, by looking at it, we receive the reward of ibadat, and that is by looking at the face of the parents. In a hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, when obedient son or daughter, when they look at the face of a mother or a father, they will receive the reward of one Hajj. They will receive the reward of one Hajj. And the companions, they asked the Prophet of Allah, what if they look at the father or mother in a daytime, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very generous. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, upon every gaze, He will give you the reward of one Hajj. So our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to go into the cave Hira, and because he selected the cave Hira because he could see Ka'batullah from there. So therefore he used to go there. Now in seclusion, as I mentioned, one of the benefit is, our heart becomes free from everything. Our heart becomes free from everything. Now we have a time to focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on our ibadat. And also, the ibadat becomes very easy when we are in seclusion. We can be distracted by our friends when we are in the crowd. But when a person is alone, then he gets a chance to do ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also, when a person is in seclusion, he detaches himself from every worldly things, from his family, from his friends, from worldly affairs. He is sitting alone now. Now he has a great chance to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to do the ibadat. So our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would go into seclusion, and when he used to go into seclusion, he used to take the food with him. Now remember, this was not against the tawakkul. What does tawakkul mean? Tawakkul means to use the means which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, and to use the causes. This is tawakkul. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the hadith says, if you do tawakkul, if you put your reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as is His due, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will feed you as He feeds the birds. Now the birds in the morning, they leave their nests, their stomachs are empty, they're hungry. And in the evening when they return, their stomachs are full. But here, just ponder over the hadith. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, like birds. Now birds, they don't stay in the nest. They roam about. They look for their rozi. They look for their rizq. They look for their food, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them the food. So the tawakkul is to do the work and not to rely on your work, but your reliance should be on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. we should use the means and then put our trust, our reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is in this dunya, the custom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that, one has to use the causes and the means. He has to go through them. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Allah, Allah, it is in His power to create, Adam alayhi salatu wasalam without mother and father. And Allah subhanahu, it is in His power to create Isa alayhi salatu wasalam without a father. But after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a child is born when a husband and wife meet one another. So this is the custom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He may give someone directly, without any use of the means and causes. The hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, in the days of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions, a man, he comes home and he finds there's nothing to eat. And he was really upset. He was really sad. His children are there, nothing to eat. His family is there, nothing to eat. So, he left the home and he just headed towards the desert or the jungle. And the family, the wife thought, my husband is going somewhere, maybe, he might, bring something. So he left the home, and what she did, she went and she lit the oven. She lit the oven, and also she prepared the millstone, in which they used to grind the wheat. And now, all of a sudden, what she finds, the platter of the millstone, it's full of flour. And she finds the oven, it's full of the bread. There's bread in the oven. The husband comes back and he said, has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided you any provision? She said, yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave us, the provision, the rizq, the sustenance. The husband, he goes to the millstone, he lifts it. Our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, had he not lifted, that he would have found this millstone providing and producing the flour till the day of judgment. So what I'm trying to explain, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this doesn't happen commonly, mainly it doesn't happen generally. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He provides someone something, He gives through the means and the causes. So our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to go into seclusion and he used to do the ibadat there. And then a time came when Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam came. Now another question, why was he shown the dreams before the Nabuwwat? The dreams were shown so that he becomes familiar, because very soon he was to meet the Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to prepare Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, so that he becomes familiar to Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam, so the dreams were shown. And our Prophet spiritually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was developing through seclusion. And then a time comes when Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam comes and he says to him, Iqra, now you recite. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he replied by saying, Ma ana biqar'in, I cannot recite. Inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will continue from there, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our sitting here. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina wa Maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallim. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina adhaban nar. Allahumma rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas samiul alim wa tub alayna innaka antat tawwabur rahim. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqihi Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.